Hi, everyone. It is showtime here. It's 12 o'clock, and I would like to introduce Michelle Hall. How are you, Michelle?
I'm great. Thanks, Bridget. How are you?
I'm good. And now we're talking about a really pertinent question that affects a lot of people, not just people who are going through divorce and separation, but we are going to talk about today and focus on divorce and eating your feelings through divorce. And that really is predominantly overeating or undereating, isn't it?
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm just going to talk about you for a bit. So you are a nutrition and eating psychology coach, and you're the founder of your fantastic business called Sage Wellness, which is a mind-body nutrition practice. You have spent 10 years studying mind, body, and nutrition, and you've got a unique non-diet, we like that, non-diet, holistic approach to health and weight that doesn't follow diets or trends using scales or calorie counting. So people will be free from all of that. That's fantastic. So you blend the science of nutrition with the psychology of eating, working on not just what people eat, but on understanding why people eat the way they do, identifying and understanding their triggers and addressing those in support with good nutrition. You work with clients directly on eating itself, teaching clients how to reach and sustain their body weight effectively long-term, tap into their own body wisdom, regulate appetite, manage their energy, and create positive eating habits that ultimately allow foods to nourish rather than punish. You work with many people who are chronic long-term dieters, yo-yo dieters, disordered eaters, so overeaters, emotional eaters, binge eaters, compulsive eaters, those with weight loss resistance, food addictions, body image challenges, and craving management, to name a few. You help, this is what I really love, this line. Michelle helps clients build healthy relationships with food, mind, and body to live the life they want and the body they love. So I've just told Michelle that I eat far too much chocolate, but I just confess my sins.
But it's okay. You're not doing too badly, to be honest.
Thanks. I'll just continue to eat all that chocolate then. So, all right. So so divorce and separation, huge stress, top of the continuum. So many things going on, so many things to think about, and self-care and looking after yourself and food tends to come at the bottom of the pile. So tell me about some of the research that you've researched in terms of overeating, undereating with stress.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a very common behavior I see in both men and women, obviously women more so than men, especially when they're going through trauma, grief, unhappy relationships, separation, or divorce. Stress is the number one factor in weight gain, essentially. So it impacts the nervous system in such a way that without going into too much detail, releases stress hormones into your body. And that really tells your body to hold on to everything you've got because it doesn't feel safe. So it's really a way of protecting yourself. So you're less likely to lose weight during these really stressful periods because of the physiological approach that happens within the body. So it's really, really important to look and understand exactly what's happening with the nervous system during those times. And interestingly, you know, when we go through periods of stress, our real go-to is actually to eat. You know, we feel pain, we eat food, and we feel better. And that's really ingrained in us from birth. You know, if a baby cries, you feed it, you calm it, and then it feels better. So it's really our right to turn to food, to eat through such times as stress. And unfortunately for so many of us, it's really their go-to. And so it becomes often a daily practice to emotionally eat their way through whatever the trauma is that they're going through. And we see it now. There's been a lot of research done, and I've actually seen it in my clinic that a lot of my clients are actually children from a divorced relationship.
Yep.
And
Sorry. That's really interesting. Tell us more.
Yeah, so it seems to be prevalent that children that are from separating or divorced households are growing up with quite disordered relationships with food. And when I say disordered relationships, I mean overeating, binge eating, emotional eating, comfort eating, versus eating disorders, which are anorexia, bulimia, etc., etc. So quite unhealthy relationships with food. And, divorce tends to be viewed as a very stressful life event. That can often result in big change for children, such as moving house, changes in financial positions, possibly changes in school, changes in social support, potentially conflict between parents, all of those kinds of things. And it's acknowledged that the effects of divorce on disordered eating are really environmental in nature. So they can lead to stress, and often it's an increased risk for disordered eating. So there's been quite a lot of research which has been done into that. So it's when I see my clients, I'm always asking about their children as well as themselves, because it's such an important part of the whole process, really. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about a couple of case studies that you've got.
Yeah, so I've got one lovely lady. We'll just call her Anna, not her real name. She was in a very long and somewhat troubled, abusive marriage. She had 4 children, and she came to me because while going through the divorce, she had put on over 20 kilos. And she just said to me, I just can't control what I'm eating. I seem to feel like food is the only friend I've got. And her words were, I feel like food won't hurt me, it won't judge me, it won't criticize me. It's my safety. It makes me feel good for a really short period of time. Obviously then not so great after it. So turning to food was really her only coping mechanism as she was going through what she was going through. So, and this had been going on for some time. So really, I was able to work with her from very much a nutritional level to make sure she had good nutrition to support her health, but also to work through to understand what was actually triggering this relationship, and how we could look to seek comfort through ways other than food. So rather than numbing out, which is often what we do with food, that's why we seek food, to fill an emotional void. So rather than numbing out and going unconscious with food, she was able to actually face what was going on in a way that supported her without needing to turn to food. So there's a process that we work through. She really learned how to fill herself up without needing food. It also comes down to self-care, which you talked about. More often than not, women particularly don't put themselves high in the ranking when it comes to looking after themselves. We do a lot of work around that. And through that process, so she had years, actually even prior to divorcing, of this disordered history with food. And after 2 months, she turned to me and she just said, I don't need food anymore. I just don't need it. I need it to live and survive, but I no longer rely on food to comfort me. I can self-soothe and do that myself, which was revolutionary for her.
That's amazing. And so how is she now?
She's really good. She's really, really good. And she's found a whole new world and, living a fantastic life, doing exactly what she wants to do. She's lost, I don't weigh my clients, so I don't know kilos and weight, because that in itself can be a trigger. So, but she's lost clothes sizes. So she's gone down a number of clothes sizes and fits and everything, and is moving freely and feeling amazing. So that's just one. I've got multiples of women like that with very similar stories, that have been able to realize that they don't need to fill themselves up with food to feel better.
So how do all of us, everyone, is touched by food in some way, I think, at some stage,
For sure.
in terms of their emotions or whatever's going on in their life, in terms of the trauma and the challenges they have. So how do people combat these issues?
Yeah, so I think you've got to first work out, is it an issue, right? Because I fully am a believer, food is so much more than just the fuel we put in our body. It creates memories, it's occasions, it creates fun and all of those things. So we do need to have food for emotion at times. So first it's looking at, is this really an issue for you? Is this something that happens every so often, or you celebrate something great that's happened in your life? That's all great. I think that's perfectly fantastic to be able to go and enjoy the food. But then you've got to look at, is it happening every day? Am I looking for food and using food for comfort and eating my way through whatever the stress or trauma is on a regular level, on a regular basis, I guess. And then once you can identify that, then you can look at, okay, what do we need to look at nutritionally? Because there's generally some nutritional tweaks that can happen. And then what do we need to look at emotionally? And even going back into what's happened in your life, even as a child, to really, really get a clear picture, because you will have created this relationship with food over generally quite a long period of time. So look at what's happened in your history that's really brought this on.
The old you sit at your table until you've eaten everything on your plate scenario.
That's a big one. That's a really, really big one. And so often my clients say, I can't leave food. I have to eat well past being full because I have to finish everything on my plate. So it's often very much a re-education process, which comes with it, which can be really challenging for some, that, these habits are so ingrained. But, it's really important to combine the nutritional aspect with the psychology of eating to fully understand your why, because more often than not, it's not actually about the food on your plate that's challenge. It's actually why you use food the way you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So what sort of tools do you give clients?
Yeah, so as I said, from a nutritional perspective, I'm always looking at their macronutrient balance to make sure that is satisfactory. If you don't get the right balance, particularly at breakfast and lunch, you're more likely to crave sugary processed food later in the day. So I do a lot of work around that. And then the tools, I actually have an emotional eating process that I work my clients through. Which is asking lots and lots of questions, really getting them to look at their why. It's really about understanding why they use food the way they do, and then looking at, okay, how can we use food in a different way? What is your challenge, your symptom actually telling you? Because you need to listen to it. So our bodies actually do talk to us, but we generally choose to ignore what they're saying. And, it's really a whispering that needs to be heard, not overwhelmed with food. So it's important to then look at what's the learning in this, and what changes do we need to make in order to be able to change the relationship with food and in turn shape-shift your body. Yeah. It's not about diets. It's not about calorie counting. It's not about restriction at all. It's very much to do with the inner work that takes time and work, but can absolutely be overcome. And the one thing I would say, if there's anything you take away from today, the biggest tip I'll give you is to slow down when you eat. That's rule number one.
Do you have to chew it how many times, a mouthful? How many times do you have to chew it?
We're not counting the chews. However, there's a lot of value in chewing your food. We tend to just swallow it. We tend to chew it in. Most of us are really fast eaters. And when you slow down with food, you actually slow down with life. And you actually become aware and a lot more conscious of what you're doing. So slowing down with food is critical to slowing down the nervous system, and it's critical to regulating your appetite and starting to pay attention with food. So that's my number one tip for you today.
That's brilliant. I hope everyone listens to that. So where can people find you?
So my website is www.sagewellness.co.nz. So that's probably the easiest way to find me. I'm on Instagram, which is Sage Wellness NZ, or Facebook, which is at NZ Sage Wellness. So any of those are great options. Just you can you can book in a free 15-minute consult if you'd like on my website. So we can have a chat if there's something in particular that you want to talk about. It's really easy.
Great. Well, thank you. We'll definitely do another Facebook Live next month. We'll have fun thinking about
so much to talk about.
There's so much content, isn't there, to talk about? So thank you very much, Michelle, for joining us. And everyone, I hope that you got a lot out of that. It's incredibly interesting that, from my perspective, that it actually isn't about what you're stuffing in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It really isn't.
It's so not. It's all what's up in here. And that's the missing piece, I think. That's the problem.
And it's being able to actually manipulate and manage this, isn't it? It really
Absolutely.
is.
Absolutely.
And that's what
it can happen. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So everyone have a wonderful day. It's raining here in Auckland. And we look forward to catching up with you all again, and reach out if you've got any questions. We're certainly happy to help you in any way we can. Thanks for joining us. And thank you, Michelle, very much for joining us today too.
Thank you. Thanks, Bridget.
Thanks. Bye now. Bye.